The Bermuda Secret Isn't Over. Captain Atlas, Episode 6. Kuruger turned to the professor and said, "There are still many people inside." The professor immediately called for help, because all those people needed to be reunited with their families. There were ships lost hundreds of years ago, missing people and countless stories. A few hours later, many rescue helicopters and ships arrived in the area. But the professor made a decision. He did not want anyone to see the technology of the spaceship. So he quickly took Captain Atlas, Marin, and Kuruger into the spaceship and returned to the research base in Svalbard. In Svalbard, Kuruger was frozen in shock when he saw the base. "What is this place?" he asked. The professor and Captain Atlas explained everything to him. Kuruger was amazed. The 20 years he had spent in Bermuda felt as if they had never existed in the outside world. He had not seen his family for a very long time. He immediately went through a medical check. Fortunately, he had no serious health problems. He was older and tired, but all he wanted was to see his family. Kuruger was actually a very good captain. In Bermuda, he had helped many people survive. But he kept thanking Atlas and Marin. "You were the ones who made their survival possible," he said. "Return to family." Now it was time for Kuruger to return to his family. He had a small son. The professor had found Kuruger's family and informed them. They were very happy when they learned that Kuruger was alive. His son Mike had grown up and even become a sailor. His family was living in Greenland. Kuruger turned to Atlas, Marin, and the professor and said, "I want you to be with me when I reunite with my family, because this happened thanks to you." Atlas, Marin, and the professor were very emotional. "We would be happy to," they said. So they traveled to Greenland with a special journey. They landed at the airport by helicopter. Kuruger's son Mike and his wife Anne were waiting for him impatiently. Kuruger was very excited. "I wonder how I look," he thought to himself. 20 years and everything he had been through had aged him a lot. The helicopter stopped. The doors opened. Kuruger saw Mike and Anne. Mike and Anne ran toward him. Kuruger ran toward them too. And finally they hugged each other. After 20 years, Kuruger was reunited with his family. They had missed each other so much that they did not let go for a long time. The professor, Captain Atlas, and Marin were watching this beautiful reunion from a distance. They were all very happy. Atlas and Marin looked at each other and thought, "Good thing we delivered that letter." The professor also realized how big and meaningful what they had done was. This was not just one person's rescue. They had made it possible for thousands of people to reunite with their families. But the story was not over yet. The secrets of Bermuda were still there. After spending some time with his family, Kuruger turned to Atlas and Marin. "We can always stay in touch," he said. "You are very special to me now. One day we will meet again at sea or somewhere else." Atlas and Marin hugged him as they said goodbye. Mike and Anne also thanked Atlas and Marin. "We are truly grateful to you," they said. Kuruger left with his family. In the final scene, Atlas, Marin, and the professor returned to the research base in Svalbard. They were sitting together in the meeting room. The professor turned to them and said, "You really did an incredible job, but you scared me a lot. I was very worried that you might not come back." Then he sincerely apologized. "Sending you so quickly might have been a big risk." Captain Atlas and Marin smiled. "Professor," they said, "you are now part of our family." The professor was touched. "You are also a part of my family. That's why I never want anything to happen to you." But Atlas and Marin looked at each other and said once again, "Professor, we still haven't fully solved the mystery of Bermuda. The black hole is not active right now. I think this is a good opportunity." The professor looked at them and smiled slightly. "I think you either don't think about yourselves at all, or you really love adventure." Then he became serious. "All right, then let's uncover this mystery. How are we going to do that?" Atlas asked. The professor replied, First, we need to collect samples from that gas cloud. At the same time, we should also examine what lies beyond that point. At that moment, the artificial intelligence Mia spoke from the screen. Professor, I already collected samples during the teleportation. They were all shocked. Really? Atlas said. Yes, Mia replied. The professor immediately ran to the laboratory. After long examinations, the results came out. The gas samples were very similar to the gas clouds around Jupiter. But this alone was not enough. The mystery of Bermuda might not be only about gases. While the professor was thinking, he suddenly remembered Atlas's Viking map. Atlas, he said, can you bring me your Viking map? And tell me the story exactly as your great-grandfather told you. Atlas brought the map, and he began to tell. The story of the Viking map. In the time when the Vikings built their first ships and sailed into unknown seas, it was believed that Odin had sent them a celestial map from the sky. One day, a famous Viking shipbuilder named Floki woke up and noticed strange markings on the deck of his ship. At first he could not understand them, but when night came and he looked at the sky, he was shocked. The markings on the ship matched perfectly with the stars in the sky. Floki immediately grabbed his torch and ran back to the deck. He looked at the markings, then at the sky again. He realized that those points represented the stars. He thought about it all night. He could not fully understand what it meant, but when morning came, he combined the stars in the sky and the markings on the ship and drew them onto a piece of wood. Then his friend Ragnar arrived. Floki, what is troubling you so much? He asked. Floki told him everything. Ragnar said, Paga would understand this best. Paga was a mysterious wise man among the Vikings who could interpret signs and see the future. He lived in a cave. Floki and Ragnar went together to his cave. The journey was long. When they finally arrived, Paga called out from inside before they even spoke. Come in. The cave was very dark. Paga did not like light. Floki showed him the markings on the wood. Paga looked at them and said, This is a gift from Odin. These will lead you to the unknown. Ragnar asked in surprise, What does that mean? Paga replied, Get on your ship. Follow these star points. Then you will find the true route and the unknown. Floki and Ragnar left the cave with great excitement. Floki now believed that Odin had communicated with him and given him a gift. In the end, Ragnar, Floki, and a few men boarded the ship and set sail, following the stars. Weeks passed. Storms came. The men began to lose hope. But at night, they continued by looking at the stars. Finally, Floki believed that the brightest star was the final point. And a few days later, behind a curtain of fog, they saw a massive land. They all shouted with excitement, We did it! And that is how the Vikings discovered Iceland. They called it a gift from Odin. And that is how the Iceland adventure began.